So then guys, I just come back from a very short break from last week after have been reading the first part of The Sheep Pig by Dickin Smith. It was such a delightful story about Babe, the young large-like piglet. He's been brought by Mr. Hogget, the farmer, and he was being adopted by a collie sheep dog named Fly. So, I hope you enjoyed the story of The Sheep Pig so far, since I've been started reading from the first 4 chapters. So, I'm going to continue reading halfway through from chapter 4 on page 34. So, are you ready to listen again to find out more about the sheep pig? Excellent. So, welcome back again. So, relax and enjoy. A look of pressure came over the sheep's mournful face, and she lay down in the straw. Very civil of you to say so, she said. First kind word I have had since I were a little lamb. And she belched loudly and began to chew a mouthful of cud. Though he did not quite know why, Babe said, nothing to fly off his conversation with Ma. Farmer Hogget had treated the sheep's foot and tipped a drench down its protesting throat, and now, as darkness fell, dog and pig lay side by side. They rest only occasionally disturbed by the rustling from a next-door box. Having at last set eyes on the sheep, Babe's dreams were immediately filled with the creatures all lame, all coughing, all like the ducks, scattering widely before his attempts to round them up. Go here, go there, do this, do that, he squeaked furiously at them. But they took not a bit of notice, until at last the dream had turned to nightmare, and they all came hopping and hacking and marrying after him with a hatred gleaming in their mad yellow eyes. "Mom, Mom," shouted Baby in terror. "Mom," said a voice next door. "It's all right, dear," said Fly. "It's all right. Was it a nasty dream?" "Yes, yes." "What are you dreaming about, sheep Mum?" "I expected it was because of that stupid old thing in there," said Fly. "Shut up, sheep," she barked. "Noisy old fool." And to Babe she said, "Now cuddle up, dear, and go to sleep. There's nothing to be frightened of." She licked his snot until he began to give out a series of regular snores. Sheep pig indeed, she thought. Why the silly boy's frightened of things? And she put her nose on her paw and went to sleep. Babe slept soundly the rest of the night, and woke more determined than ever to learn all that could from the new neighbour. As soon as Fly had gone out on her rounds, he climbed the straw stack. "Good morning, Ma," he said. "I do hope you are feeling better today." The old owl looked up. Her eyes, Babe was glad to see, looked neither mad nor hateful. "I must say," she said, you're a polite young chap, not like that wolf shouting at me in the middle of the night. Never get no respect from they, treat you like a dirt they do. Bite you as soon as they looked at you. Did they really? Or nip your hocks if you're a bite a bit sly, and worse, some of them worse. Or aren't you never heard of worrying? I don't worry much." No, young I'm a-talking about sheep worrying. You'll get some wolves as they chase sheep and kill them." "Oh," said Babe, horrified. "I'm sure Fly would never do that." "Who's Fly?" She's our dog here." The one that brought you in yesterday. Is that what she called? No, she burnt. A warrior, just rude. All wolves is rude to us sheep. See, always have been. Barked and run and nip and call us stupid. We burnt all that stupid. We do just get confused. If only they just show a bit of common politeness. Just treat us a bit decent. Now, if you was to come out into the field, a nice, well-mannered young chap like you, and ask me to go somewhere or do something politely like you would, why, had been only one too delighted. Mrs. Hogget shook her head at least a dozen times. For a life of me, I can't see why you do let that pig run all over the place like you do. Round and round the yard he do go, chasing my ducks about, shoving his nose into everything. Shouldn't wonder, but what he'll be out with you and fly moving the sheep about for long. Why doesn't shut him up? He's running all his flesh off. He won't never be fit for Christmas, Easter, more like. What do you call him? Just Pig, said Farmer Hogget. A month had gone by since the village fair, a month in which a lot of interesting things had happened to Babe. The fact that perhaps most concerned his future, though he did not know it, was that Farmer Hogget had become fond of him. He liked to see the piglet pottering happily about the yard with Fly, keeping out of mischief, as far as he could tell, if you didn't count moving the dogs around. He did this now with a good deal of skill. The farmer noticed even to the extent of being able once to separate the white dogs from the brown. Though that must just have been a flock. The more he thought of it, the less Farmer Hogget liked the idea of butchering Pig. The other developments were in Babe's education. Despite herself, Fly found that she took pleasure and pride in teaching him the ways of a sheepdog, though she knew of that, of course, he would never be fast enough to work sheep. Anyway, the boss would never let him try. As for Ma, she was back with the flock, her foot healed, her cough better, but all the time that she had been shut in a box, Babe had spent every moment that Fly was out of the stables chatting to the old O. Already he understood, in a way that Fly would never could, the sheep's point of view. He longed to meet the flock, to be introduced. He thought it would be extremely exciting. Do you think I could, Ma? He had said. Could what, young un? Well, come and visit you. When you go back to your friends. Oh, why, you could do easy enough. You only got to go through the bottom of the gate and up the hill to the big field by the lane. Don't know what the farmer did say, Fly. All of that wolf. Once Fly had slipped quietly in and found him perched on a straw stack. Babe, she had said sharply, you are not talking to that stupid thing, are you? Well, yes, Mama was. Save your breath, dear. It won't understand a word you say. Bah, said Ma. For the moment, Babe was tempted to tell his foster mother what he had in his mind, but something told him to keep quiet. Instead, he made a plan. He would wait for two things to happen. First, for Fly to rejoin the flock, and after that for market day, when both the boss and his mum would be out of the way. Then he would go up the hill towards the end of the ferry next week. The two things had happened. Ma had been turned out in a couple of days. After that, Babe watched as Fly jumped into the back of a Land Rover, and it drove out of the yard and away. Babe was not the only eyes that he watched its departure. At the top of the hill, a cattle lorry stood half hidden under the clump of trees at the side of the lane. As soon as the Land Rover had disappeared from sight along the road to the market town, a man jumped hurriedly out and opened the gate into the field. Another backed a lorry into the gateway. Babe, meanwhile, was trotting excitedly up the hill to pay his visit to the flock. He came to the gate at the bottom of the field and squeezed under it. The field was steep and curved, and at first he could not see the single sheep, but then he heard a distant drumming of hooves, and suddenly the whole flock came galloping over the brow of the hill and down towards him. Round them ran two strange collies, silent dogs that seemed to fly effortlessly over the grass. From high above came a sound of a thin whistle, and in easy partnership the dogs swept round the sheep and began to drive them back the slope. Despite himself, Babe was caught up in the press of jostling, pleating animals and carried along with them. Around him rose the cry of panting, protesting voices, and some shrill and some hoarse, some deep and guttural, but all saying the same thing. "Wolf, wolf!" cried the flock in a dazed confusion. Small by comparison and short in the leg, Babe soon fell behind the main body, and as they reached the top of the hill, he found himself right at the back in the company with an old sheep who cried "Wolf!" more loudly than any. "Ma," he cried breathlessly, "it's you!" Behind them, one dog lay down at the whistle, and in front, the flock checked as the other dog steadied them in a corner of the field. The tall board and wings of a cattle lorry filled the gateway, and the two men waited, sticks and arms outspread. "Oh, hello, young 'un," puffed the old sheep. "Fine day you chose to come, I say. What is it? What's happening?" "Who are these men?" asked Babe. "Rustlers," said Ma. "They are sheep rustlers." "What do you mean?" "Thieves, young 'un. That's what I do mean. Sheep stealers." "Well, you'll be in a thick lorry afore you can blink your eye. What can we do?" "Do ain't nothing we can do, unless we can slip past Thesia Wolf." She made as if to escape, but the dog behind darted in, and she turned back. Again, one of the men whistled, and the dog pressed, gradually held against the headland of the field by a second dog, and the flock began to move forward. Already the leaders were nearer the tall board of a lorry. "Well then, beat," said Ma mournfully. "You won for it, young 'un." "I will," for Babe, "but not away, you mean." Little as he was, he felt suddenly not fear but anger, furious anger that the boss's sheep were being stolen. My mom was not here to protect them, so I must say to himself bravely. And he ran quite quickly round the edge of the flock and jumping on to the bottom of a tall board, turned to face them. "Please," he cried, "I beg you, please don't come any further. If you would be so kind, dear, sensible sheep." His unexpected appearance had a number of immediate effects. The shock of being so politely addressed stopped the flock in his tracks, and cries of wolf changed to murmurs of "Ain't he lovely?" and a proper little gentleman. Ma had told them something of her new friend, and now to see him in the flesh and to hear was his real chosen words, released them from the dominance of the dogs. They began to fidget and look about for the escape route. This was opened for them when the men, cursing quietly for above all things, they were anxious to avoid too much noises, sent the flanking dogs to drive the pig away, and some of the sheep began to slip past them. Next moment, all was chaos. Angrily, the dog ran at Babe, who scuttled away, screaming at the top of his voice in a mixture of fright and fury. The men closed on him, sticks raised. Desperately, he shot between the legs of one, who fell with a crash, while the other, striking out madly, hit rearguard dog as it came to help, and sent yowling. In half the minute, carefully planned raid was ruined, as the sheep scattered everywhere. "Keep yelling, Yonan," bellowed Ma as she ran beside Babe. "She won't never stop here with that row going on." And suddenly all sorts of things began to happen as those deafening squeals ran out over the countryside. Birds flew, started from the trees. Cows in nearby fields began to gallop about. Dogs in distant farms to bark. Passing motorists to stop and stare. In the farmhouse below, Mrs. Hogget heard the noise as she heard on a day of a fair, but now it was infinitely louder, the most piercing and nerve-tangling, ear-shattering burglar alarm. She dialed 999, but then talked for so long that by the time patrol car drove up the lane, the rustlers had long gone, snarling at each other and their dogs, and they had driven hurriedly away with not one single sheep to show their pains. "You won't never believe it," cried Mrs. Hogget, when her husband returned from market. We've had rustlers just after you had gone. It came with a grit cattle lorry did. The police said they seen the tire marks in the gateway, and the chap in the car seen the lorry go by in a hurry, and there's been a lot of it about, and he gave an alarm. He did. Kept screaming and shrieking enough to bust your eardrums. We should have lost every sheep on the place. 'Twent through him. 'Tis him we've got to thank." "Who?" said Farmer Hogget. "Him," said his wife, pointing at Babe, who was telling Fly all about it. "Don't ask me how he got there or why he'd done it. All I know is he saved our bacon, and now I'm going to save his. He's stopping with us, just like another dog. Don't care if he gets so big as a house, because if you think I'm going to stand by and see him butchered after what he done for us today, we've got another thing coming." We didn't say to that. A slow smile spread over the Farmer Hogget's long face. The very next morning, Farmer Hogget decided that he would see if the pig would like to come. When he went round the sheep with Fly, "I'm daft," he thought, grinning to himself. He did not tell his wife, seeing walk down the yard, crook in hand, and hearing him call Fly. Babe was about to settle down for the after-breakfast nap when, to his surprise, he heard the farmer's voice again. "Come, Pig," said the Farmer Hogget. To his surprise, the pig came. "I expect it's because of what you did yesterday," said Fly politely, as they walked to hill together up the hill. The boss must be very pleased with you, dear. You can watch me working." When they reached the lower gate, Farmer Hogget opened it and left it open. "He's going to bring them down to the home paddock away from the lane," said Fly quickly. "You be quiet and keep out of the way." And she went to sit waiting by the farmer's right side. "Come by," she said, and Fly ran left up the slope as the sheep began to bunch above her. Once behind them, she addressed them in her usual way. "Is that to say sharply, 'Move, fools,'" she snapped, "down the hill if you know which way down is." But to her surprise, they did not obey. Instead, they turned to face her, and some even stamped and shook. They heads at her, while the great chorus of bleating began. To Fly, sheep talk was just so much rubbish, to which she had never paid any attention, but Babe, listening below, could hear clearly what was being said, and although the principal cry was the usual one, there were other voices saying other things. The contrast between the politeness with which they had been treated by yesterday's rescuer, and everlasting rudeness to watch. They were subjected by this or any wolf brought mutinous thoughts into the woolly heads, and words of defiance ran out. You got no manners. Why can't you ask nicely? Treat us like muck. You do?" they cried, and war hoarse voice, which the pig recognized, called loudly, "We don't want you, Wolf. We want Babe." Whereupon they all took it up. "We want Babe," they bleated. "Babe, Babe, Babe." Those behind pushed at those in front so that they actually edged a pace on too nearer the dog. For the moment, it seems to Babe that Fly was not going to able to move them, that she would lose this particular battle of wills. But he would not reckoned with her years of experience. Suddenly, quite quick as the flash, she drove them in on them with a growl, and with a twisting leap sprang for the nose of her foremost animal. Babe heard the clack of her teeth as the O fell over backwards in fright, the fright which immediately ran through all defiant no longer. The flock poured down the hill, Fly snapping furiously at her heels, and urged wildly through the gateway. "No manners, no manners, no manners," they cried, but an air of panic ran through them as they realized how rebellious they had been. How the wolf would punish them. When they ran helter-skelter into the middle of a paddock and wheeled as one to look back, ears pricked, ears wide with fear. They puffed and blew, and Ma's hacking cough ran out, but to their surprise, they saw that the wolf had dropped by the gateway, and that after that moment the pig came trotting out to the side of them. Farmer Hogget could not know what he had caused the near revolt of the flock. He saw clearly that for some reason they had given Fly a hard time, and that when she was angry was not like her to gallop sheep in that pell-mell fashion. "Steady," he said courtly as she hurried the rear guard and them down. "And stay, and shut the gate." Sheep herding suited Farmer Hogget. There was no waste of words in it. In the corner of a home paddock nearest to the farm builders were smallest fenced yard, divided into the number of pens and ran the race. Here the sheep would be brought at a shearing time, or to pick out the fat lambs for market, or to be treated for various troubles. Farmer Hogget had heard the old oak cough. He thought he would catch her up and give her another drench. He turned to give an order to Fly, lying flat and still behind him, and Fair, lying flat and still beside her, was Pig. "Say, Fly," said Hogget, "and just for fun. Come, Pig." Immediately Babe ran forward and sat at the farmer's right, his front trotters placed neatly together, his big ears cocked for the next command. Strange thoughts began to stir in Farmer Hogget's mind. Unconsciously, he crossed his fingers. He took a deep breath and, holding it, "Away to me, Pig," he said softly. Without a moment's hesitation, Babe began the long outrun to the right, quietly, what Farmer Hogget had expected to happen. He could never forwards clearly remember. What he had not expected was that the pig would run round to the rear of a flock and turned it to face it and him, and lay down instantly without a word for the further command spoken, just as a well-trained dog would have done. Admittedly, with his jerky little rocking horse counter, he could twist twice as long to get there as Fly would have, but still, they was in the right place, ready and waiting. Admittedly, the sheep had turned to face the pig and were making a great deal of noise. But then, Farmer Hogget did not know, and Fly would not listen to, what they was saying. He called the dog to heel, and began to walk with his long looping stride to the collecting pen in the corner. Out in the middle of a paddock, there was a positive babble of talk. "Good morning," said Babe. "I do hope I found you all well, and not too distracted by yesterday's experience." And immediately it seemed that every sheep had something to say to him. "Bless his heart," they cried, and "Dear little soul," and "Hello, Babe," and "Nice to see you again." And then there was rasping cough and the sound of Ma's harsh tones. "What's that then, young man?" she croaked. "What be you doing here instead of at the wolf?" Although Babe wanted literally to keep on the side of a sheep, his loyalty to his foster mother made him say in a rather hurt voice, "She's not a wolf, she's a sheepdog." "Oh, all right then," said Ma. "Sheepdog, if you must have it. What does want then?" Babe looked at the army of long, sad faces. "I want to be a sheep pig," he said. "Ha ha!" bleated a big lamb standing next to Ma. "Ha ha 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 ha!" Be quiet," said Ma sharply, swinging her head to give the lamb a thumping, but in a side. "That aren't nothing to laugh at." Raising her voice, she addressed the flock. "Listen to me, all you owes," she said, "and lambs too. This young chap was kind to me, like I told you, when I were poorly, and I told him if he was asked me to go somewhere or do something politely, like he would, why he'd be only too delighted. We ain't stupid. I told him all we do want is to be treated right, and we as bright as the next beast, are we? We are, chorused the flock. We are. Why, then, Zimmer? What shall us do, babe? Babe looked across towards the farmer Hogget, who had opened the gate of the collecting pen and now stood leaning on his crook, fly at his feet. The pen was in the left bottom of the corner of the paddock, and so Babe expected, and at that moment got the command, come by, Babe, pig, to send him left and so behind the sheep, and first turn them down towards the corner. He cleared his throat. If I might ask a great favour of you, he said hurriedly, could you all please be kind enough to walk down to that gate where the farmer is standing, and to go through it. Take your time, and please, there's absolute no rush. Okay, so I'm going to stop there about page 61. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the story about the sheep pig. Was written by Dickin Smith. Okay, guys, so just want to stop there. Hopefully we're going to continue more about the sheep pig on part 3. So I'm glad you enjoyed the story of the sheep pig on second part. Okay, so we're on the halfway through on chapter 5, and then hopefully we're going to continue. I hope you enjoyed the story of the sheep pig. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the third part of the sheep pig. See you for a short while.